All right, so get ready because today we are diving deep into numerology, but with a twist. We're going to be using your birth date and name. Yeah, you heard that right. To uncover those like hidden patterns and meanings, that are kind of woven into your life.
That's kind of like if you could imagine having this personalized map of your soul and all those numbers, they're like the guideposts, right? But don't worry, we're not talking about like predicting your future or anything. It's more about understanding yourself better.
Hmm.
Like, what are your strengths? What challenges might you face? Just getting a feel for those energies that make you you.
It's like ancient wisdom meets modern self-discovery, right? I love it. And to help us navigate this whole personalized deep dive, we've got a total number whiz with us. So should we just jump right in?
Let's do it.
Okay, perfect. So let's start with the big one. The one everyone wants to know about your left path number.
Okay, so using that birthday you gave us, it turns out you have a fascinating life path number. It's an 11.
An 11. Okay, so I've heard about this whole master number thing. What makes an 11 so special in numerology?
Well, you know how sometimes you get those gut feelings, those strong intuitions. Imagine like turning up the volume on those,
Yeah.
making them even stronger. That's the energy of an 11 life path. It's almost like having this direct line to your own inner wisdom. People with this life path often end up being like visionaries,
Oh.
They can bridge that gap between the everyday world and something much bigger.
Whoa. So not just dreaming big, but actually having what it takes to make those dreams happen. And not just for themselves, but in a way that impacts others too. That's pretty amazing.
Right, totally. And you know how this goes. With great power, there's also, a bit of a flip side.
Yeah, it can't all be sunshine and rainbows, right?
Exactly. That intensity of an 11, it can be a lot to deal with sometimes. It's like feeling everything, every emotion so much more deeply. Learning how to ground that energy, manage that sensitivity, that's super important for anyone on this path.
It's like having, a really high performance engine, amazing power, but you got to learn how to handle it, right?
Exactly, 100%.
Okay, so we've got this powerful life path, but what about skills? Like, what talents and abilities does our listener naturally bring to the table? Let's talk about your expression number.
Okay, so for this one, we used all the letters in your full birth name. And guess what? It came out to be a 7.
Ooh, a 7. All right, lay it on me. What does a 7 tell us about, like, our listeners' natural gifts?
Okay, so this is where things get super interesting. Remember that whole intuitive spark of the 11? Well, a 7. It kind of adds fuel to that fire. It brings in this like never-ending thirst for knowledge. Like you just got to dive deep into the mysteries of life.
So it's not just about having these big visionary ideas, but also having this natural drive to really understand them, to figure out the why behind everything. It's like being a detective of your own intuition.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. You're like wired to be a truth seeker, constantly uncovering hidden meanings and wisdom. It's an amazing combination. Honestly, that combo, it's like the perfect recipe for a life with a ton of purpose.
Totally. But having a life of purpose, it doesn't mean you got to forget about the practical stuff, right? Like paying the bills, keeping things running smoothly. That's where the soul impulse number comes in. This one's all about your deepest desires, what truly motivates you.
And yours. A solid 4. We're talking practicality, stability, a deep appreciation for strong foundations in life.
So while our listener might be drawn to these big, almost like universal truths and ideas, they also long for that sense of being grounded, having that solid base to operate from.
Yeah. Think of it this way. The 11 is the architect, dreaming up these incredible structures.
Yeah.
The 7, it's like the blueprint, figuring out the how. But it's the 4 that makes sure those foundations are rock solid, strong enough to support the entire vision.
It's like the perfect blend of dreamer and doer, right? With a good dose of wisdom thrown in there, too, for good measure. This is so fascinating. Okay, so how does all of this show up in how our listener interacts with the world? What's their vibe? Let's uncover those secrets with your personality number, shall we?
All right, so using just the consonants in your name, we arrived at a 5.
Ooh, a 5. All right, that just screams adventure and freedom, am I right?
You got it. That's the energy that, just draws people in. You've probably got this, contagious zest for life, willing to try new things, connect with anyone and everyone, right?
So we've got this incredible mix of intuition, wisdom, a little practicality, and a whole lot of adventurous spirit. But before we connect all those dots, let's quickly talk about the last core number, the birthday number.
This one's easy. It's just the day you were born, right? The 10th, which we reduced down to a 1.
A 1, okay. Didn't we already see a little hint of that 1 energy with your life path?
We did. And it all makes sense when you, zoom out and look at the bigger picture. That one, even within the already powerful 11, it just amplifies that leadership quality, that go-getter energy. It's about forging your own path.
So there you have it. All 5 core numbers laid out. But how do they all work together? How does it all connect? That's what we'll unpack as we keep diving deep, deep, deep into your cosmic code. Okay, so like we've got all these individual numbers, right? It's like these little energetic threads just kind of laid out in front of us.
Yeah.
But how do they all I don't know, weave together
Right.
to make you? I guess that's what we're gonna try to figure out now, right?
It really is interesting. It's almost like putting a puzzle together.
Okay.
And, sometimes I think the coolest parts are, when those pieces, they don't seem to fit at first glance.
Right?
But then they create this like dynamic tension,
Yeah.
that like brings the whole picture together.
Yeah, okay. You're drawing me in here. So where do we even begin with all this?
Well, let's go back to that life path 11 for a sec. Remember, it's that powerful source of intuition and vision. And it's more than just like having those big ideas, right? It's like this deep inner urge to share them, to really put them out there in the world, and maybe even like inspire some real change.
Right. Almost like a megaphone for your intuition.
Yeah. Yes.
But you mentioned earlier that all this like amplified energy, it can be kind of overwhelming at times.
Right.
So how does that actually play out for someone with an 11 life path?
Well, that's where that 7 comes in. That, that seeker of knowledge we were talking about. It brings some balance to the whole thing. Imagine this.
Okay.
The 11 gets these downloads, these flashes of insight.
Right.
And then the 7 swoops in, does all the research, analyzes everything, and makes sure it's grounded in, reality.
So it's not like just blindly following every hunch and every idea. You've got to think things through.
Exactly. You got it. And then your soul impulse number, that practical 4, it comes in and adds this whole other layer of depth.
Okay, how so?
Well, with a 4, you're not just content with theories or like fantasies. You need tangible results.
Yeah, right.
You want those ideas to become a reality, something concrete.
So it's almost like the 4 is the builder,
Exactly.
Carefully laying each brick, making sure that whatever's built, inspired by that 11 can actually stand the test of time.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about that 50M energy that's like totally infused in your personality.
Yeah.
While you're building this like empire of wisdom and inspiration, you're also giving off this vibe of adventure.
Yeah.
That openness that just draws people in, new experiences too.
So it's not all serious for our listener.
Right.
Got to have some fun along the way.
Exactly. They're out there experiencing new things, connecting with people, and probably bringing a little joy to everything they do, I'd imagine.
They do.
You see, that's what I love about this. Those seeming contradictions, they actually create this beautiful harmony, Like you can want stability. A&D still crave exploration. It's not one or the other.
Totally. It's about finding that balance.
Exactly. It's like having the best of both worlds,
Right. Like a strong foundation, but the freedom to, wander a bit.
Precisely. And don't forget, with that assertive 1 energy, you're not afraid to take charge either. You're a natural born leader in whatever you set your mind to.
Yeah.
But remember, being a leader, it's not about, bossing people around.
Right.
It's about inspiring them, helping them find their own potential.
And isn't that what that 11 life path is all about? Inspiring people to be their best selves, strive for something bigger.
Absolutely. Using your voice, your wisdom, your experiences to like light the way for others.
Yeah.
Encourage them to embark on their own self-discovery journey.
It's like this ripple effect, like your actions, even your insights, inspire those around you to do the same.
Exactly. And that brings us to something super important, self-awareness.
Okay.
Because understanding how all these numbers interact, that's just the first step, right?
Right.
The real transformation begins when you actually start working with these energies in your everyday life.
It's like, it's not enough to just know your numbers. You have to embody them.
Yes.
Make them a part of how you live.
Exactly. For example, you've got that powerful combo of the 11 and the 7. Super important to find ways to, I don't know, maybe express your intuition.
Okay, like what? Give me an example.
Meditation, journaling, spending time in nature, things like that.
Yeah.
These practices, they can really help you tap into that inner voice and understand, what it's trying to tell you.
And what about that adventurous 5, right? How can our listener honor that energy while still, staying grounded, keeping things stable?
That's where mindful exploration comes in. It's all about seeking out those experiences that spark your curiosity, make you feel excited, but also make sure they line up with your values,
Yeah.
your long-term goals too. Could be traveling, maybe picking up a new hobby. Could even be as simple as striking up a conversation with someone new, someone outside your usual circle.
So it's about finding that sweet spot between like spontaneity and, being organized, honoring both sides of yourself.
Exactly. And remember, this whole self-discovery thing, it's a journey. It never really ends. The more you lean into these energies, the more you'll understand those little nuances and how to like navigate everything in a way that feels true to you.
This is already so insightful. I love it. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I got to ask, how does having a master number like the 11 actually show up in someone's life? What are some like real world examples of this?
That's a really good question. It's where we kind of move from like the theoretical stuff to the real personal stuff.
Yeah.
Master numbers, you often see them pop up in people who just, have this strong pull to a certain path.
Right.
And it happens early, maybe when they're young. It's like they've just always kind of known.
Yeah.
Like they're meant to do a certain thing. It's like a sense of purpose, but bigger than themselves.
So not just like, oh, I have this passion, but more like a calling almost.
Yes, exactly. And it could show up in so many different ways.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it could be anyone, the artist who just, has to share their work, has to get their vision out there, or, an entrepreneur, but like they're driven to create something totally new that solves a problem.
Right.
Or it could even be like a teacher who just feels this deep responsibility to, empower future generations.
It's like their work is just an extension of them, It's like their soul knew what it was here to do.
Exactly. And, because master numbers, they kind of vibrate on a different frequency.
Right.
Those who like embody them, they tend to face these, unique challenges.
I bet.
They might be super sensitive or they always feel different. A lot of them even say they just feel impatient sometimes.
Oh, I could see that.
Like the world isn't moving fast enough for them.
Right. It's like they have one foot in reality and the other in like this totally different realm.
Yes, exactly. And that's why self-care is so important, making sure they have those healthy outlets for all that energy.
Otherwise, they'll just brain out.
Exactly. They've got to learn to manage that sensitivity, how to ground themselves so they can actually like use those gifts without it being too overwhelming.
It's like you can't just ride the waves. You have to learn to surf too.
Exactly. 100%. And, that brings us to a really important point from today.
Okay. What's that?
Your numerology, this whole map of you, it's not like set in stone. It's not this unchangeable thing.
Oh, interesting.
It's a starting point, a way to understand those strengths, challenges, things like that. It's about the energy that influences your journey.
So it's more like it's not boxing you in these numbers. It's more like they give you a compass.
Exactly.
And then you get to kind of choose your own adventure.
Exactly. It's when you use this knowledge in your life, that's when the real magic happens. And remember, you've got this awesome blend of like vision, wisdom, you're practical but adventurous,
The total package.
Right. So now it's about, thinking about how you can use all that to create a life that lights you up, a life that means something.
That's beautiful.
Like, how can you take that spark, that powerful 11 energy, and, I don't know, share it with the world?
Ooh, that is something to really sit with, isn't it?
It is.
Wow, this has been so enlightening. I always learn so much from these deep dives into numerology.
Me too. It's been a pleasure.
And remember, this is just the beginning, There's so much more to discover when it comes to numerology.
Absolutely.
So think of this as like your invitation to keep going, keep digging deeper, uncover those layers of your own cosmic code. And most importantly, just enjoy the ride. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey of self-discovery.